What's going on, guys? Bart here with Tully Television, and today we're going to be getting into The Last of Us Episode 7 review. But before we do, I want to thank you and everybody else for stopping by, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that beautiful stuff that we do on YouTube to help the algorithm recognize us and help grow our community. Only together can we go straight to the moon, baby. But I digress. I'm Prison Mike from Azkaban, coming at you, giving you The Last of Us Episode 7 review. This was entitled Left Behind, and of course the writers remain to be Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin. Stars of Pedro Pascal as Joel, Bella Ramsey as Ellie, Storm Reed as Riley Abel, and Terry Chen as Captain Kiwang. We see in the beginning of this episode that basically Elle was able to drag Joel back to some sort of shelter by having the horse drag him on what appears to be some sort of mattress or something like that. To get him to where he needs to go to start recovering. He's telling her to go, get out of here, leave him, and she approaches the door, and as she touches the handle, you see her contemplating something, and then we go back to a flashback. This episode mainly concentrates on Elle's backstory and how her path took to where Joel picked up and started protecting her with the mission. We see that she's in a designated zone area like most of other people throughout the country in Boston. Her and other girls around her age are doing laps, training to become Fedra agents. And depending on how hard you work will be the cushier job you get down the road. As Elle is running, we see someone try to bully her with her Walkman, and Elle winds up attacking her and beating her up after she mentions something about a friend usually doing that and she's not around anymore. We pick up with Elle talking to Captain Kwang, about her actions, and he's trying to explain to her, like Elle, you're smart. You know, you need to realize your potential in this world. Frederick kind of helps keep things together, but we also see in Kansas City where that led, you know what I mean? That revolution, so to speak. He gives her a couple of options of where her life can turn out. She then decides she's able to get a Walkman back, and then kind of the next scene is of her in her room reading one of her comic books, which I totally can understand that. In the room, we see a poster of Mortal Kombat 2, a couple other posters. She seems to be into space and all this other stuff. And we see her friend sneak in, Riley, and scare her in her sleep. They talk about where she's been. Riley asks how Elle got her black eye. She tells her not to worry. And then we kind of get into where her friend has been, which basically for the last 3 weeks, Elle was thinking that she had been Minecrafted, but she really had joined the Fireflies, Riley did. And basically, she wanted to come and see Ellie, because I'll explain that why it had to be specifically this night why she came to see Ellie. She explains to Ellie that she has a surprise to show her, and they settle down after Ellie learns that her friend joined the Fireflies. This episode shows a lot on how we can, once we start entering the adult world or beginning to knock on the adult world, we soon realize that our innocence, our childhood, has been great for us to pretend like real things aren't happening, but this episode proves and shows that we all must get to a point where we have to start determining who are we going to be to the world and to ourselves. And to see these two best friends in the beginning on separate ends of Ellie with Fedra and her friend Riley joining the Fireflies, the dichotomy between those two viewpoints, if you see at the end of the episode that people really mean anything to each other, they're going to wind up blending that together and making their own path, so to speak. It's not always so black and white with choice making. There is nuances, levels, areas of gray that can be completely understood, if not agreed with. And I also want to mention, before I continue with the story, the soundtrack to this show has been excellent. Even with me not liking the last episode with Tommy, I think that this whole series has used music very smartly. They timed it up very cleverly with what's going on the screen. They're visualizing what the lyrics are trying to portray to you. And I really like how, even though most people consider 80s music like oldies music now, how I guess I would consider 50s music oldies music when I was in my early 20s or so, or my teens. They also showed cassettes of Aha, Take On Me. But yeah, I just wanted to remember to get past, to get out there that I love the soundtrack to this show. It's been really wonderful, even if I've had an episode where I wasn't big on. I still think the soundtrack has been excellent. And the show has been excellent overall. The cinematography has been great. But finally, they get to the surprise that Riley wanted to show Ellie, which is a mall. You gotta remember, these kids that are like under 20, they don't know any of these things. They've never seen a plane in flight. They don't know, never really seen a car in motion for most of them. They don't know a lot of things. On how things were prior. That's why Ellie's always asking, did you ever ride in a plane? This car looks like a spaceship. This, that, the other thing. When you're living in such an isolated type of lifestyle, these things are like magic to you. So, to see Ellie's even wonderment over the escalator, the magical stairs, she fools around on the stairs a little bit. They walk around at one point of them roaming the mall. They talk about like different things on why some stores were looted, some stores weren't. And Riley was like, I guess it just is what people needed or what other people felt like they need. And they made a joke how, well, that sneaker store is wiped out, but this Bed Bath and Beyond store is full with soap. Like you would go figure. Which is a good little thought there, because you would figure, like, that's the first thing people are thinking about at the end of the world is sneakers or unrelated things that will help you in the long run. 50 Air Jordans ain't going to help you. That soap might, though. But and then they point out a Victoria's Secret store. And the friend was like, Riley was like, well, like these, I don't get this store. And Ellie kind of makes a joke about how, like, do you need me to explain what Victoria's Secret store is used for? Excuse me. And they both chuckle, and she's like, no, but she's like, well, look at that. That looks highly uncomfortable. And it was sexy outfit with G-string up the crack there. And she's like, that looks so uncomfortable. And she kind of jokes like, I couldn't imagine you in something like that. And Elle gets all flushed and tells her to stop. But then when the friend walks away, you see her primping herself a little bit in her reflection. Throughout this episode, you can see Elle has an obvious affection and love for her friend Riley that exceeds a friendship. You can tell that she has a romantical love towards her. They go to other places like an arcade. They go to I'm trying to think of a merry-go-round. They go to a merry-go-round. Elle is very impressed with that. They go to an arcade where they get to play Mortal Kombat 2, which Elle was very excited for, being she had the Mortal Kombat 2 poster up in her room. She loses initially to her friend Riley, who Riley was Melina and Elle was Raiden, but then we see later Elle beating Melina with what was that one creature's name with the claw at the end, and he rips you up and stuff like that. He was like a yellow tinge. But we see how the noise and everything starts bringing attention to this one creature that still happens to be lingering in the mall. And he starts to be aware that, Elle and Riley are there. At one point, their differences kind of blow up a little bit because Riley explains to Elle that she's leaving to go somewhere, that the Fireflies are sending her out on a mission, and she wanted this to be a great last night because at some point Elle felt like she wanted to go home. They did come across a bottle of liquor off of a dead man who Minecrafted himself with the liquor and pills that he had. And so they were sipping on that a little bit too. Typical teenager stuff. Stealing liquor from the cabinet and getting drunk, or in this case, stealing liquor off a dead man and getting drunk. At one point, they go to where Riley was sleeping. Elle notices some pipe bombs, and this is when they really get into a big tizzy about everything. Riley was the one that gave her her pun book. Elle takes off because she's like, enough, this is you're going on a path I don't want to be a part of. As she leaves, she realizes that, she doesn't want to leave. She loves Riley. As she comes back, she hears screaming. She runs and she finds Riley in the Halloween store. They kind of make up a little bit and they start dancing around in some masks. And it wasn't until this point that when they took their masks off, Ellie decided to kiss Riley. And Elle was like, oh, I'm sorry. And Riley was like, for what? That's fine. It's fine, you did that. And so they realize, finally admitting that they're in love with each other, or what their version of love is for each other. I don't want to ever disparage someone's view of love at whatever age. It tends to grab you. But at this point is when we hear that the clicker, right? The guy, the zombie, making his way, and he goes and attacks the girls. They defeat him, but this is when we see that both girls have been bit, and they decide to make a pact to stay there with each other until they transform. And this must be around the time that Marlene must have went to go check on Riley, found Ellie there, seen she was bit, didn't turn, and then realized what the new mission for the Fireflies was. But we might see that next episode. But then finally she comes back into present day, finds a sewing kit in the house, and decides to sew Joel's wound up after she cleans it, stitches it up, and now we wait and see what happens next week. That's how the episode ends. I think that this was definitely a better episode than last episode. I love to see the degeneracy of innocence. With each wonder they do, a level of innocence has been torn away until we get who we are inside the soft underbelly, so to speak, of who we are as people. They're at an age where they're trying to align their beliefs up politically with what they believe. Their identity in all aspects of life, and it's hard to come to terms that you have a friend that you may not get along with anymore because of a difference of opinion, and sometimes those pills are hard to swallow. I again love this series overall, even with some things here and there I didn't like with the last episode. Overall, this series has been great. The cinematography, the soundtrack, the acting, the writing. Like I said, so far, the only episode that really threw me off was the episode Ken. But, yeah, definitely check it out. Thank you for stopping by. That's my review for episode 7 of The Last of Us. I think we got 3 more. And then we'll see if we get renewed for a second season. But let's stay tuned and keep tuning in, guys. Until next time, peace, Snookums.